Hello friends, this is Gerry from the very distant future, and you're about to watch a re-upload of a video that I did back in 2020. So a little disclaimer, this came out before the 3.50 update that Line 6 rolled out, which had all of the brand new cabs with the new cab engine. So all the presets in this video are working off of the old cab system, but all of the presets should work in much the same way. You could just replace the old cabs with the new cabs or with your favorite IR. So just a little disclaimer, enjoy the video. What is up, my friends? My name is Gerry, and today I'm going to be sharing my Line 6 Helix presets with you. One of the most asked questions I get is, bro, presets, please. But I can't procrastinate on making this video forever. The presets I'm about to share with you though are the exact same ones that I used on my EP, Great Unknown, and you can download them by clicking the link in the description, or you can follow along with me and build these presets by scratch. They are absolutely free, and all that I ask is that you maybe check out my EP and buy it or stream it. I made these presets on my Helix rack, but these will work on the Helix floor, LT, and of course the HX Stomp. I didn't forget about you guys. Alright you guys, so now we're in HX Edit. That's what I predominantly like to use when I'm editing my tones and stuff. I know a lot of you like to use the actual, knobs and stuff on the physical Helixes, but this is just more comfortable for me. Whatever's more comfortable for you, that's cool too. So I'm just gonna go down the line and show you all of the presets that I used for the EP. And I guess we'll start with my main rhythm tone. So this is the tone that I used for, 90% of the EP. This is, the double tracked rhythm stuff. So it kind of sounds like this. Okay, so let's see what is going on inside the preset. So for my amp of choice is the Archetype Lead amp model. That's the one that I use for most of the rhythms and most of the leads on the EP. It's just the one that I gravitated towards too. Before I used to use the PV Panama, and I've messed with like the Line 6 Badonk and a couple of the other ones, but that's the one I just kind of keep coming back to. And if you look at the parameters, and let me pull up a stock block of the Archetype Lead amp model. Let me see. Okay. So if you look at the parameters that are in the block when it's stock compared to the ones that I have, I really didn't change that much to get the sound that I liked. So as you can see, I maybe turned up the gain a little bit and turned down the depth, and that's literally all I changed. So just going down the line with the parameters, the drive is at 6.0, bass 5.4, mid 6.8, treble 6.7, presence 6.5, channel volume 7.5, just left that alone, master at 4, sag, hum, ripple, bias X, that's all at 5, and I turned down the depth a little bit for at 3.0. Cool. So I know there's a lot of hubbub about, you know, using third-party IRs and which is your favorite. Do you like this brand or this company or whatever? And I've dabbled with tons of IRs. You know, there's so many companies that make so many great ones out there. But I stumbled upon kind of like my secret weapon cab combo that I use in the Helix, and I'm really hard pressed to use anything else. It's just, I just use that for pretty much everything, and I just set it and forget it. And it's nice not having to import, you know, IRs, you know, between the rack that I use here in the studio and live, between that and my LT or the HX Stop. I could just create a preset and upload it, and it works totally great. So the cab that comes stock with the block when you first load it up is the Cali V30. But the cab that I kind of fell in love with for metal stuff is the XXL V30. So, and I just used 2 blocks of the same cab. So just mic'd up with 2 different mics. So for the first one, I have a 57 dynamic, 2 inches off the cab, and stock now the high pass and low pass is at 80 hertz and 8.0 kilohertz. And I just kind of leave that alone. I don't like to have the mic too close to the cab, because when I have the 57 and the other cab, you know, same settings except I changed it to the 4038 ribbon, you get a little too much proximity effect, sometimes a little too much low end, especially when using the 4038 ribbon microphone, because that one really gives a lot of low end. But that I find comboed with the 57 really gives a nice kind of even sound for everything. So let me just get rid of this guy, and let me turn off some of the other effects that I have going on here. And I'll show you what that sounds like. All right, cool. And then the only other thing that I add is a noise gate. Here are my noise gate settings. The threshold is at -40, 20 milliseconds of decay time, and that's it. And then, you know, just to be as stereotypical and as common as every other metal guitar player out there, I have a tube screamer boosting it in the front. Tone is at, you know, at half at noon. Gain is at 0, level all the way up. So, you know, that's just, it's very simple. I really don't do anything else other than that. Maybe some, you know, EQ and stuff when I'm actually mixing the song, but it's... But yeah, that's it. That is my rhythm tone. So there you go. Moving on, I know I kind of skipped the preset here, but I know that most of you guys are probably, you know, wanting, you know, a rhythm metal guitar tone. But I'll jump back up to this first preset. This is basically my clean tone. So staying in the family of the Archetype stuff, I use the Archetype Clean for the clean stuff most of the time. It gives you a very nice, kind of brilliant, clean sound, especially with the bright switch on. So one thing to note with this guitar particularly, maybe you might have to adjust some of these settings, maybe boost the treble and presence to get it as crystal clear as kind of how my sound sounds like. So if I show you what it sounds like just on the bridge pickup. So I'm using the Tosin Abasi signature Fishman pickups. And if you go into the position 2 on the pickup selector, you'll have a split coil sound between the two pickups, the two inner pickups, I believe. And so it gives you really kind of really super bright, spanky sort of sound, right? So a lot of that crystal clear stuff is coming from the pickup. So, you know, depending on the type of pickups that you have, you might have to, you know, do some, you know, EQ settings. But besides that, what I have going on is I have the drive at 5, the bass at 6, mid at 5, treble at 5, presence at 4, channel volume 7.5, master, sag, hum, ripple at 5. The bias is all the way up. Bias X is at 5, the depth is at 3, and the bright switch is on. So again, I kind of try to keep it very simple. I really don't really mess with the sag and those types of parameters all too much, because it's, you know, when I load up an amp model, and this is really, you know, a testament to the hard work that the Line 6 people put into this, is that a lot of these amps just kind of sound great as soon as you select them. So not really that much toying around there. As far as the cab setup, again, I've kept it the exact same as the rhythm presets and a lot of the other presets that you'll see here. That being, you know, because I guess I could have experimented with like a smaller 212 or, you know, 112 cab to get, you know, even more brilliance, open back cab or whatever. But I guess my mindset was A, to kind of keep it all consistent, and B, trying to imagine it as if I were using it live. So if I had this amp live, you know, you would only have one cab on stage, and that was kind of my thought process behind that. And C, it just sounds good, and I really didn't feel like I needed to change the cab anyway. So so let me turn off some of these other effects and kind of show you what it sounds like with just the amp and the cabs together. So pretty flat, pretty clean. What I have going before the amp is some compression. So I was a big fan of the Blue Comp compressor pedal that came with the Pod HD, you know, line of Line 6 modelers. So I was a big fan of that one. So when they kind of included some of those legacy effects in a later update for the Helix, I was really glad to have it again. So I just, you know, I can even change the settings right here, that if I just switch between the red comp and the blue comp, it's literally just the stock settings, and that's what works for me. So that's just to kind of clamp down on some of the pokey or transients and stuff and keep it kind of all consistent sounding. So it's really doing a lot to keep it kind of even sounding and stuff. So, and then the only other thing, I have a delay and reverb. And I know some of you eagle eye viewers are kind of typing down in the comments, oh, why do you have, you know, the effects coming between the amp and the cab? How come they're not after the cab? And how come they're not stereo and yada, yada, yada? I kind of have a few schools of thought to it. Whereas, you know, I use the Helix live a lot of the time. So oftentimes I will run the Helix in conjunction with a power amp to power a cab. If I wanted to use the Helix so that the front of house can get the direct signal and that the cab, you know, gets the unaffected signal without the cab, the easiest thing to do, in, you know, for me anyway, is to keep my effects mono and have them in between the amp and the cab. And then I would insert a send, you know, let's say I wanted to do send 1 or whatever. And then I would put that right after my effects so that everything up until this point would hit the power amp and cab on stage, and then after the fact it would hit the cabs, and then that would be the direct signal that the front of house guy would get. So as you can see, that literally took no effort. I don't have to do any sort of crazy routing. I can just put the send block and then take the output from the Helix, feed that into a power amp and cab, and then, you know, we're all good. Have a nice day. And then the other thing too, because I know a lot of you are big on, you know, stereo effects and stuff. From my experience, and this is just my opinion, when you're a local musician and you're just playing live in front of, you know, you're at a bar or, you know, a really small venue, A, no one's really going to notice, and B, trying to implement stereo things, if it's not a really well-tuned room, really isn't going to benefit you in the long run. So that's just my humble opinion. You can do whatever you want, but oh, whatever. So anyway, to get kind of back to what I was saying about the effects. So my delay of choice is the transistor tape, and in the clean tones, I really don't have it up that loud depending on the preset. So when it's just my general clean tone, barely in there, that's just to give it a little more sustain. It kind of comes more into play when I'm using it for different songs. Then I'll turn it up more. I'll turn the mix up more so you can hear it more audibly. And then after that, I have the Ganymede reverb, which sounds like this. So I really like that reverb a lot. It really makes everything sound super pretty, especially with a clean tone. So yeah, with that being said, that is pretty much my clean tone. And sometimes I will change some of these parameters depending on the song. Sometimes I'll make the delay more obvious so it matches with the tempo of the song and stuff. But that's pretty much my clean tone, and that's what I use for a lot of the record. So okay, moving on. We have the lead tone. So as I said earlier, I use the archetype lead amp model for both my rhythm and lead sounds. But I do change some of the parameters a little bit. So as you can see, drive is at 6, bass 6, mid 6.8, treble 6.0, presence 6.0, channel volume 9.0, master 4. I kept all the sag, hum, ripple, bias, X all at noon, and then the depth at 3.8. So I just changed it just a tiny bit. I'll go ahead and turn off my effects so you can kind of get an idea of what it sounds like. Also, you may notice that I only have one cab block for this preset. That's so it would be accessible to the HX Stomp users. So because it only allows you to have 6 blocks at a time, which, you know, it sometimes can be frustrating to, you know, to kind of work around. But what I did instead is I used the exact same cab model, but I changed the mic to the 20 dynamic microphone because I felt that that was the closest to the blend of the 57 and the 4038. So okay, so that's what that sounds like. I'm just gonna go ahead and very quickly show you what I would do with my own presets. So I would put the 57, drop in another cab. Let's see, there's the XXL V30, and then I would drop that down so we get the blend of the two, and then I would change that from that microphone to the 4038. So just so it's more. It just kind of bites a little bit more that way, I feel like. So if you want to make this change at home or, you know, whatever you'd like to do. So, okay, so moving on from there, if we see what's hitting in the front of the amp, the first block we have right now is that same blue compressor that I like a lot. So it really helps with just, you know, bringing everything out of the guitar. I feel like it's very sensitive to the notes, but it really helps with kind of bringing out a lot of the little nuances and intricacies in your playing and stuff. So that's in the front. And then after that, I also have another tube screamer. Same settings as I had for the rhythm channel, except I turned down the level a little bit so it's not hitting the amp quite as much since we're already hitting it pretty hard with the compressor before the fact. So that's there just so we can get a little more gain out of the amp, and it really tightens everything up and it really brings out more of the playing, as I was saying before. So then after the amp, as I said, delay of choice is the transistor tape. So there's this kind of settings that I have going on right there. Okay, and then after that, that's going into one of the legacy reverbs, not one of the new fancy Helix ones. This is actually an old legacy reverb from the Pod HD stuff, I believe. And the reason for that is because there's so much frequency information coming off of distorted guitars. Whenever you feed that into kind of a prettier reverb, I find, it just kind of amplifies a lot of that chaos, but kind of in a negative, kind of nasty way. So the Cave reverb and a lot of these other legacy reverbs, I feel like suit lead stuff a lot better than like one of the prettier reverbs, as I said before. So it gives it depth. It gives it that depth that you would find when you would use a reverb, but it doesn't, you know, add all this kind of extra frequency content that really doesn't do you any favors in the long run. So that being said, that's kind of the whole preset, and this is what it sounds like. Oh, and also, very quickly before I forget, some of you might have noticed that I don't have a noise gate block. So I'm using the onboard noise gate that you find over at the input block. So those are my settings there. And I'm also doing the same sort of thing for the clean patch. So let me pull that up real fast before I forget. And there you go. Those are the settings that I use for that. All right, so moving on, we have an ambient lead patch. This is something that I use sometimes for intros, or you know, if you check out my song Imhotep, that's kind of the beginning ambient lead part in the beginning of the song. I won't go through all of the settings because it's literally just the exact same settings that I use for my lead patch. I took out the delay, and then I'm using the same reverb, but I turned the mix all the way up, and that's pretty much the sound. So yeah, that's that sound. Okay, so Octave Rhythm is a patch that I'll use sometimes to kind of fatten up a riff, or, you know, kind of just to add that extra oomph. Sometimes even for just single notes in a riff, or specific notes in a riff. So Octave Rhythm, everything is the exact same as far as my rhythm preset goes. So it's the exact same settings as my rhythm preset, but I have this pitch block hitting the front, and those are the settings that I'm using there. If you see where it says interval, it's at -12. That means an octave before. And then the mix is just all the way up. So you kind of get this. So it might sound kind of funny on its own, but when you kind of, you know, I usually double track guitars, and then every now and then, if I feel like it, you know, a riff or you know, a passage, it needs kind of a thicker sound, I'll do a third guitar in a pan in the middle, and then I'll turn that down in the mix a little bit. But I'll use this octave patch to kind of just heavy it up and make it thicker and stuff. It's really cool when you use kind of a split coil sound. You get that really. So yeah, that's a lot of fun. Okay, so the next preset that I have is called a lo-fi. So essentially this is exactly the same as my rhythm preset, except at the end I have this megaphone block. And what that does, that kind of makes it sound very lo-fi, and it's very useful for when you're trying to build up to the next part. So again, referencing my song Imhotep, right before it kind of hits the chorus section where the big kind of lead part happens, you know, there's a lo-fi guitar track that kind of helps build or emphasize the next part. So here's what that sounds like. So yeah, like I said, it's really cool for, you know, maybe a verse section or something to build up a bigger section to come right after it. So there's that. Okay, so this next one is a little different. I am using a different amp model. I'm using the Placator Dirty. This one is called Mid-Gain Rhythm, and this is more for, I use this in the first verse section of my song Bliss. I wanted to do kind of more of a spanky sounding part. So I'm using the split coil position of my guitar, and here's what it kind of sounds like. So that's a lot of fun. Again, I'm using the Placator Dirty amp model. My settings are drive is at 6.5, bass is at 10, mid is at 5, treble 8.0, presence at 7.0, channel volume 7.5, master at 5. The sag I have all the way down. I have the HBE switch off, the fast switch on, C45 off, saturation off, ripple at 0, bias and bias X at 5. So, and then just so I can show you everything, I am using the exact same cab combo as before. Here are my noise gate settings, same as my rhythm patch. Again, tube screamer, exact same settings as my rhythm preset. And then again, the same Blue Comp compressor pedal to kind of push more and emphasize a lot of the spankiness, I guess. Okay, so next I have Serenity Clean. So this is kind of the clean sound that I use for my song Serenity. This one kind of has like a really obvious delay sound coming after it. So again, it's that same transistor tape delay. Here are the settings. And this one's more, the mix is way more than my regular clean sound. So that's kind of to emphasize what's happening in the song. So that sounds like this. So very pretty, and then I'm using the exact same reverb. I think I turned up the mix a little bit more on this one. This one's at 40%. Let me just check back on the other one. Yeah, this one's at 30, so I just kind of turned it up a little bit more to have a little more pretty reverb on that, but that's essentially Serenity Clean. So okay, so after that is Serenity Chorus. That might sound like I might have used this preset for the chorus section of that song. No, it's actually just there because there's a chorus pedal in the preset. And then again, I only used one cab block here to kind of keep down on the number of cab blocks so that I could open it up in HX Stomp if I needed to. So this one kind of sounds like this. So for this preset, I kind of wanted that post-rock kind of delay sound and some modulation, hence the chorus. So I moved the delay over to the front of the preset. So again, this is the same as my clean tone, but I moved it to the front. And I have a kind of a half note delay thing going on. And then after that, I have some tube screamer hitting the front of the amp. That's just kind of to dirty it up a little bit, to kind of emphasize that post rock sort of sound. So that's really cool. And then again, I'm the Octave Clean amp model, the exact same settings, the cab. And then after that, I have the chorus. Now, I know I just kind of talked down on using a stereo effect, but this is the way that I built it for the EP. So I just kind of left it alone. But here are the settings that I use for the chorus. And at the very end, I have the Glyph Reverb amp model. So again, I know I kind of talked down on the stereo effects, but these are the ones that I used to build the preset back when I was tracking the album. So. Okay, cool. So next up is the Imhotep Clean sound. So this is the clean sound that happens right after the first kind of big chorusy bit, where it kind of slows down and it's more reminiscent of the intro of the song. So very similar to my already existing clean tone, but I moved the delay over to the front of the amp instead of in between the amp and the cabs. And here are the settings that I use for that. But everything else is exactly the same, and the same reverb and everything. So you get kind of this sort of sound. Cool, so that's how I got that sound. And then our very last preset is this Bliss Clean. Again, very, very similar to my other clean presets, but I moved the delay to the front of the preset again, to the front of the chain, like the other one. And then for this song, I predominantly do fingerstyle for the very intro of the song. So here's what that sounds like. So there you go, guys. Those are my Line 6 Helix presets. Thanks for watching this video. I hope these presets end up helping you out famously. What amp models and effects are you using in your Helixes? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to know. If you want to keep up to date with me, you can follow me on social media. I post on there pretty regularly. I also recently made a Twitch account where I'm going to be doing guitar stuff and maybe play some video games. So follow me on there too so you don't miss out on that. And as always, for more guitar videos like this one, you can head over to my channel, hit subscribe, and I will see you next time.